Cool, so I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. I know it takes a lot to come out on a Wednesday night, end of the school year. Some of you guys have kids, some of you guys have family, all of you guys have businesses that we're running, working on, and I know how valuable my time is, so I appreciate you guys taking a little bit of time out tonight to come out and support the Hard Money Bankers guys, to come see me talk a little bit about my story and my experience. So hope I can deliver some good information to you guys, that you guys really get some value out. And if you guys have questions, try to hold them to the end. I'm more than happy to stick around and answer any questions that anybody has. Big passion of mine is helping new investors out, experienced investors get their business more efficient, more successful, and getting it to where they want to be. And that's a little bit of what I'm going to go into tonight, is my story along that. So with that being said, I just want to go ahead and jump right into it. So if you guys want to connect with me, here's my website bottom at the end. I've got a stack of flyers over there too. My website, if you guys are looking for deals, is mddiscounthouses.com. If you guys are looking for any properties all over the Baltimore area, check it out. But my purpose here isn't to sell you guys properties. My purpose here is to deliver some info that's going to help your business. So let's get going. So a lot of people think about wholesaling as an entry-level strategy, and it truly can be. That's how I got started in the business. That's how my business really took off. But wholesaling to me is really the #1 strategy that any investor can know, any investor can implement. And I think that a lot of investors looking at it as an entry-level strategy kind of holds them back. And I really think if you want to be a full-service investor, you have to implement it as a core strategy to your business. And I want to get into why that is and how to take that to the next level, because that, when I took it from just wholesaling to wholesaling as a full-service strategy with rentals and rehabs, my business exploded exponentially. Oh no, tech problems. So wholesaling, why is the #1 strategy? Many people, like I said, view it as entry level. If your business only involves rentals, if it only involves rehabs, if it only involves flipping, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, because all of us have a capacity at what we can handle. Even wholesaling, you have a capacity. You can only handle so many deals. But if you're just rehabbing or just doing rentals, you're really limited. Most people, I know some people that take it to another level, but that's a very, very small percentage of people. But when you take wholesaling as an add-on to your business, you can literally do 10 times the number of deals. Most investors look at them as different businesses, but they're really complementary. And once you understand that, you can have way more profitable, quick exits in terms of dollars per hour. And really, that's what we all need to do. A lot of people get stuck up on the glam and the glory of having passive income with rentals, which is great. Trust me, I'm switching a lot. We're buying a lot of rentals right now for that reason. But a lot of times you have to look at your dollars per hour and where that money is coming from in your business. And wholesaling allows you a lot of times to have the quickest dollar per hour of any strategy in this business. Provides cash flow. Wholesaling provides almost all the cash flow for our business to do rentals, to do flips. It gives us operating capital, lender capital, and so forth. And then you can become an expert at the 4 strategies that I'm going to go into. And those 4 strategies are finding deals. This is the #1 thing that I hear people bitch about every day. I can't find any deals, I can't find any deals. Well, if you have that kind of attitude, then yes, you're not going to find any deals. I can tell you right now, there are deals on the MLS. I see them all the time when I'm comping properties. There are deals on auction.com, there are deals on Hubzu, there's deals at the courthouse. I buy deals from other wholesalers and go and re-wholesale them. There are deals everywhere. You have to know where to look for them, and you have to know where to find them, and that's why when you become a deal expert, you find them everywhere. It becomes a plethora, not a drought of deals. Analyzing deals, this is the biggest thing too. When you look at deals from a wholesaling perspective, a lot of times when you're looking at it as only a rental or only a flip that fits your needs, you're leaving money on the tables because they don't fit your criteria. I can tell you I buy deals every day that don't fit criteria that I'd want to buy. It isn't a deal that I'd want to have in my portfolio, it isn't a deal that I'd want to rehab and put my name on, but it's a deal that somebody will pay me $10, $20, $30, $40,000 on in another neighborhood that they feel comfortable with. We just sold one today where the buyer paid us, Leon, how much did that guy pay us on that deal today on Bristol?
$46,000.
Guy paid us $46,000 on a deal that we bought for $16,000. I would have never wanted to do that kind of rehab, but we had multiple offers, on that property, and that's because it fits somebody else's criteria. When you're farming an area, when you're farming a zip code, when you're farming a part of the city, you need to look at what fits everybody's model, not just your model. And then selling the exiting deals, just what I talked about. Whose needs does this deal fit? Not just yours. When you're looking at it for yourself, you're looking at it selfishly. When you're looking at it from what other investors can this deal serve, you're going to put more money in your pocket. And then systematizing the process and implementing the deals, which is the most important and is what I want to get into. I'm going to go through all these, but that's what I'm going to spend a lot of time on tonight, because that, even if you're like, screw you, Terry, I don't want to do any wholesaling. If you're just rehabbing or just renting properties or just want to stick in those niches, you can take the systematizing info and apply that to any business, and it's going to make your life a whole lot more, you're going to have a happier life. So I talked about how when I implemented a full service model that my business exploded. This right here is a graph of the last, 6 years. For a long time, I was just wholesaling. I did 1 or 2 rehabs, but when I implemented it as a full service model, basically what I mean by that is we go out and acquire more deals than we know we can handle. And the reason for that is because I know once we get a capacity, we can decide, hey, do we want to keep this, or do we have the capacity to sell it, or do we need to sell it? And that's what we started doing here, is over acquiring properties right at this point by way more than you can handle, because if you're buying them at criteria that fits you, fits your needs, you can always keep them as a backup. But if you have the opportunity to sell it, you can say, hey, I'm just going to get as much as I can and sell them off. And that is literally what happened here. We were doing about 100 to 200,000 a year, and over the course of a year and a half, we started doing over 7 figures a year. And I'm not saying that to impress you, because I can tell you right now that there's a lot of expenses that go into that, but it allows us to profit off of so many more transactions that in the past we wouldn't have, because we have multiple exits on it. We can rehab it, we can rent it, we can wholesale it. And that, when you can only rehab, or you can only, even if you're doing rehabs and rentals, when you don't have wholesaling as an exit, you are limited to what you can personally handle. And a lot of investors don't realize that. They keep going back to, oh, it's a basic entry-level thing. It's, how many people here with a show of hands look at wholesalers as bottom feeders? No honest people here. Not one. Okay. Well, because one of my favorite things is when people are like, well, if this is such a good deal, why don't you keep it? And I reply half the time to this, we just might. Because you take the power away from them. As when you're just a wholesaler, a lot of people can't close on the deals. But when you implement that all the way around, you can literally profit several ways. Does this make sense to you guys? Yeah. How many of you guys just have one model in your toolbox right now, either renting, rehabbing, or wholesaling? Raise your hands. So about half the room. That's a lot of shy hands, a lot of T-Rex arms. Don't be shy here. This is a group activity. This is why we're all here. This isn't just me speaking to you guys. This is us coming together. And if you guys aren't honest with yourself and with me and the group, like that's how we all get the most out of these type of events. So a little bit about me before I get into the strategies of my why to help you guys understand this, and we're going to circle back to this at a little bit at the end. One of the things that I love to talk about is my family, because I always get choked up my tongue. I'm a big softie. If you get to know me, I'm a big softie. I love traveling with my kids, with my wife. I never used to go anywhere, and she drags me all over. She drags me all over the world. We've been to Italy. We went to the Middle East 3 years ago. It was great. So this was, I think this was 3 years ago. We all went to Disney World with my wife's family. It was awesome. So, and I'm going to circle back to this a little bit. We were there. This was the tail end. We were in Florida for 4 weeks. We stayed there all the whole month of February, and then the first week of March, we went with her family to Disney World. And this picture is going to come up again at the end here. I'm going to show you guys why this is important. So again, the core strategies: the finding, the analyzing, the selling, and the systematizing. So a little bit again about my transition is, before I was in real estate, like I kind of look at real estate, and this, some people might not take kindly to this, but I think real estate investors are kind of like the misfits of like the corporate college world. Like we kind of don't fit in anywhere. And that's, I went to college and got 2 degrees, I was working, and it's just like, I'm not gonna get anywhere that I wanna be in life with the track that I'm on very quickly until I'm retirement age, and I'm impatient. So I realized quickly that I was going to be stuck climbing the corporate ladder and trading time for money, which that's stuck in a job, and I didn't want to be stuck in that. So I started reading about it on Bigger Pockets, back when Bigger Pockets was very small and nobody knew about it. And I saw it for sale by owner house, and I wanted to go out and practice negotiating. And I made my first offer, and they told me basically to fuck off. And this is what they basically told me. They were like, you can fuck off. There's an older couple that are in this house in Federal Hill, which even 10 years ago was a very hot neighborhood. And they wanted 200 for the house. I offered 155. And 30 days later, they called me back, and they took it. And I remember I was standing at the, it was then the Super Fresh at the Giant on 41st Street in Hamden, and I was like, they called me back, and they were like, you still interested? And I was like, yes, I'm still interested. I couldn't believe it. It was like the first offer I ever made, and I wholesaled it, and I partnered with somebody else, and we made 18,000 collectively. And after that, I was hooked. Now, after that, deals got very hard because, again, I was a one-trick pony. This is pure luck. I'm not going to chalk it up to anything like that, but it was what do you call it? Proof in this model that it works. And deals after that, I was closing $500 deals, $1,000 deals, things like that, just kind of scratching to get by because I was still working. I was trying to get this consistent income. And that's, again, why it was so tough, because I couldn't go out and acquire deals to rehab them and rent. I didn't have multiple exits, I had one exit. And if I couldn't find a buyer, I was screwed. I had to go back with my tail between my legs. And for people who know me in this business, there's a lot of people who will go back and renegotiate contracts and back out of contracts. I do not do that. And anybody who knows me that's very true. I like to go in at a price that works. So that's just how I operated, and I couldn't get enough deal flow to make it consistent at the time. We started at 6:45, Sabina. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding with Sabina because I know her. She's good people. If you guys don't know her, get to meet her after the meeting. She's a real buyer. I'll call you out. It's like late to class. So finding deals, this is the first core strategy. If you guys didn't get one of my flyers over there, or the website's at the top, wholesaledomination.com, I have a list of 100 ways to find deals. Everyone says there's no ways to find deals. There's tons of ways. And I will send everybody that list, but some of the best ways are online auctions, cold calling, door knocking. We buy at courthouse auctions. We do a lot of direct mail. There are literally, I have a list of 100, there's probably 200-300 ways. You need to find 2 or 3 ways that work for you. A lot of people in this business get shiny object syndrome. Everybody wants to, if they're not doing cold calling, that's the hot thing now, cold calling. If you're not doing whatever it is, everybody's got the new hot thing. What is it? Remote voicemails. Who's got something that's hot right now? Huh? The voicemails. So everybody wants to switch, right? Everybody's going this way and going that way. Everything works. Some things might work better than others, but you need to stick to what works for you. One thing that took me a long time to realize is I don't like talking to sellers. That's why I like online auctions. That's why I like courthouse auctions. That's why I like MLS deals, because I don't have to talk to sellers. It's too emotional. It's like dating. It's like, do you like my offer? Do you not like my offer? Do you want to do this? Do you not want to do this? Like, do you want to come back to my place and sign it, or go back to your place? It gets awkward, and then you get vested, and then they leave you. And then it's hurt when they reject you. And find the things that work for you. Some people are really good at talking to sellers. If you're really good at talking to sellers, like, you should be on the phone with them, not going to Hubzu and submitting deals. Work on your strengths. So prepare yourself for success over time. I know so many people that get stuck in this business, or not stuck in this business, but stuck in their habits and say that things don't work. They say that this doesn't work or that doesn't work. I can tell you that every marketing strategy for sellers works. How many people in here are at a point, or have been at a point where they want to quit marketing for sellers or quit doing things, honestly? Thank you. Anybody else? Couple honest people? I see more T-Rex arms there in the back. All the shy people are in the back. All right. I've been there. I get there every so often. It's like, man, why are you doing that? And you have to stay the course. All these things work. Maybe tweak, maybe do some changes, but that's That's what you need to be doing, is figuring out what works in that model, not, oh, let me switch to something completely different. And use systems to track your progress. Again, we're gonna get into this a little bit more depth. How many calls you do? We track everything. We track every dollar we spend. We do a lot of direct mail. We track every dollar we spend on it. We track every offer we make. We track how many counters we get. We track everything so that we know exactly what we need to tweak in that model. There's other models we could probably do that would be more effective, but it's a model that we have set up, and if we tear that model down and switch completely, it could take 3, 6, 9, 12 months to ramp up in another niche. So analyzing deals, the second part. This is really where I think wholesalers excel at. I get into so many arguments with people online about this in so many of the different real estate groups. And the problem is that everybody thinks that there's only one way to analyze a deal. 65% of maximum allowable offer, 70% allowable maximum offer. How many people, everybody, I'm guessing most people in here that know those formulas? Yeah. There are so many ways to skin a cat. People buy deals based off of cash flow. People buy deals based off of neighborhoods they like and emotion. That's why when you understand neighborhoods and analysis, that's why wholesaling makes it so profitable. We've done a handful of deals in one neighborhood in Howard County where we're getting them at 90 and 100,000 and selling them at 130, 135, and the deals are only worth 170. There's no room in there under a normal formula, but we're making $30,000 a clip on these, and we've done 4 or 5 over the last 2 years. But if I followed what every old school investor or by the book investor or guru wants to tell me that's the only way to do deals, if I could take 30 times 4, that's $120,000 that my business wouldn't have today. I didn't go out and mislead somebody on what a deal was worth or what it is. I put it out, and they're adults, and they make an investment, and they do. And the way a lot of these neighborhoods work that people don't understand is that there's certain cultures that buy in certain neighborhoods close to other areas that invest. There's people that buy that have cash that say, hey, I can get 6, 7% return on this in this neighborhood, and there's a lot of people from their country overseas. How many people have that wholesale sell to overseas buyers? 1, saw somebody, 2. I don't know if that's not PC to say that you're selling to certain cultures or people, but that's how it works. People want to buy those type of deals and they're fighting over them and they're getting multiple offers. That's why this works. So when you're using wholesaling, you can say, do you have too many deals? Wholesale it. Does it not fit your criteria? I would never buy, I would never pay 130 for a deal in the neighborhood that I'm talking about, the little sub-market. But if it doesn't fit my criteria, I have 10 people that are submitting offers on it, wholesale it. Now, if I'd have only been going under a rehab model or a rental model, what would I have done with that deal? I'd have passed on it. I'd have said, this deal doesn't work for me. And I left $30,000 for every one of those deals on the table. That's why this is important. We all look at life and deals and transactions through our lens, through our filter, through our experience. And the thing with this business is you have to take that experience and push it aside. And you can never fully do it because life is a collection of experiences, right? You're gonna have your own judgment, but the more you can push that aside and operate just off of data, when I can go in the MLS and say, there's 15 cash sales in here for 130 to 140. Why would I pass on this at 100? That's using data, and that's really what you need to do. That's where analyzing and becoming an expert at just going off of the numbers will make you excel at this business. That graph I showed you when our business exploded, that's when that happened, when I stopped using what other people told me based off of their experience was the only way to do deals. And again, that goes right into what I was just talking about, becoming an expert in target markets and neighborhoods, understanding what the buyers want. It's not what you want, it's what the buyers want. Now you can still go out and buy deals up to what you can buy, the maximum. Let's say there's a neighborhood in, I don't know, part of Baltimore County where you're comfortable buying up to 100, but there's multiple buyers that are buying at 110, 115. Why not acquire as many deals up to that number as you can, knowing that if you get at capacity with rentals or rehabs or whatever it may be, that you can easily exit that deal for 110,000. maximize your pipeline so that you have that option. Does this make sense to you guys? Cool. And again, there's no hard set rule. I get in, I don't want to say arguments, we call them discussions with people about this because it is the way it works. I've seen this work over the last 4 or 5 years when I've implemented all these things. Again, selling, this is the third element. Contracting, controlling and structuring deals. Controlling deals is really the key. That's what I was talking about. If there's a neighborhood where you know, whether it be a rehab neighborhood, a rental neighborhood, whatever it may be, that you can go in and acquire, you're comfortable buying them to 100. But again, there's cash sales at 110, 115. But control all of the inventory you can in that area at your comfort level, because your backup plan is to keep it. Your backup plan is to keep it as a rental. Your backup plan is to keep it as a rehab. But when you realize you're at your capacity, put it out to your buyers. Oh great, if they're selling at 110 all day, price it at 105, 107 if you get in a pinch. And again, worst case, sell it. How many people have turned away deals because they only can take on 1, 2, 3 rehabs, only take on 1, 2, 3 rentals? So you guys understand what I'm saying? When you guys have you ever seen a good deal come across your plate that you've turned away? Yeah. That you probably could have bought at your numbers and maybe even flipped for a couple bucks. And it's tough because you're like, oh, this is so good, I just want to buy it. So, and then finding cash buyers. In today's market, this is easier. In a buyer's market, when I got started in 07, it was so easy to find deals and difficult to sell them. It's just everyone's like, oh, well, it's this. It's never in this equilibrium. It's always not always gonna be one or the other, but this is very easy. When it goes to a buyer's market and the economy crashes, everyone's gonna be complaining that it's hard to find buyers because all the easy money is gonna be gone. Everybody that's just got cash right now is gonna be free. You know, what does Warren Buffett say when people are afraid? Be greedy. But human intuition doesn't allow that. Dalen, you're blocking my thing. So systematizing, outsourcing, and delegating. This is kind of what I really want to go into because this is what allows your business to free up. It allows it to be an actual business and not just a hobby. How many people in here are full-time investors and feel like they just have a full-time job? 10? Only 10? Put your hands up. I've been there. I've gone through this. This is why I'm going through this. Thank you to everyone who's putting their hand up. Sabina, you got here late, you're not putting your hand up. This is what's gonna allow you to have more than just a job. It's gonna allow your business to operate without you. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I couldn't put my phone down for 5, 6 hours because my business, when I turned my phone off, my business turned off. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, it's something we work on every day, but I can turn my phone off if I need to for a day, 2 days. It's not perfect. I could turn it off for 2 weeks. I might have withdrawal. I might get a little Baltimore twitch, but I can do it. And this is the reason this is important. Why I showed you guys, taking it back to my journey. The first few deals, like I said, I closed that big $18,000 deal, and after that, it wasn't as easy. You know, business grew, but it was slow. I was making $35,000, $45,000, $55,000 a year the first 4 or 5 years. Just, I had a job, but it was like I felt free, but I really wasn't free at all. I had to work every single day of the year. And then my business started to grow. Like I said, we got up into that 100K mark, but I still had the job. And then I was like, man, let's grow bigger. And what do we all want to do, right? We want to feed our ego. We want to grow our business. We want to do more deals. We want to be more profitable because that's in our DNA. You guys agree with that? It's just human nature, right? We want bigger, better, faster. So that was the journey that I was on. I showed you guys this picture in the beginning, right? When I was with my family. This was, might have been 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago. So this was us, right? It's like Instagram worthy. We're all at Disneyland. We're just having a good time. My daughter's excited. But the part that you don't see is that while I was running my business, I was ignoring my family. And it was, when I saw this picture come through, this was killer. It fucked with my head a lot, because the life I thought I was having, I thought I was providing for my family, I thought I was leaving a legacy, I thought I was providing, and my daughter couldn't give two fucks about how many deals I closed. All she wants to know is that when she comes home that I'm gonna play, is daddy gonna play tag with me? Is daddy here? But, I can pose for the pictures and have fun, but when you're riding a ride in Disney World and you're on your phone worrying about your business, I can tell you that you slowly feel a strangle. How many people have been there where you realize that you're giving up? I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, or I've changed this completely. I still have, it's human nature to want to drive, but being aware of it is the key, and that's why I really want to go into systems a little bit, is because when I saw this picture 3 years ago, I cringed, and I pulled this picture up 6 months ago. My wife didn't know. It was on one of those magic bands at Disney World. They just take it when you're riding the ride, and I remember when it came up on our feed, I was like, holy shit. And that's a real eye-opener. And some of you guys might not be here yet, some of you guys might be here yet, but I can promise you that being unaware of setting up your investing business like a business and setting up systems can get you here very quickly. And that's exactly what happened to me. So with that, Balin, you're blocking my thing, bro. Got a little choked up there. Every time I look at this picture, it's hard. So while, like I said, while I was trying to create a business that gave me freedom, I just realized, sure, I'm making more money, sure, I'm closing more deals, but at the same time, I'm ignoring my family. I'm not being present. I'm there physically, but am I there fully at fucking Disney World with my family on a trip that should be amazing? I'm not saying it wasn't amazing, but how many of those other times that didn't get caught on film was I not present, that, my daughter's gonna realize, hey, dad was there, but he wasn't really there. So I got exactly what I thought I wanted. This is what happens with most of us. We get what we want. We want a big business, you get a big business. You don't get a big business that serves your lifestyle. You don't get a big business that serves your needs. You don't get a big business that serves your family. You just get a big business, and you're the most valuable employee. And that's exactly what I got. How many people have been there, have felt like they're there? I know that's a hard thing, that there's probably some of you that are I'm not raising my fucking hand for that. But being aware of that, being vulnerable enough to say, hey, I've been there, I am there, that's when, or I don't want to be there. How many people don't want to be there? Well, if your fucking hand's not up, you got a real problem. Because that's what it's about, being aware of that. And it took a lot to change the bad habits that we had created in our business. So let's get a little bit about how do you prevent that. This is something that I've become really passionate about over the last couple of years, is because I realized where I was at and the journey I was on and the struggle I was on of being, for lack of a better word, addicted to your business. I would work all the time because nobody could do it better than me. Nobody could close deals better. Nobody could find deals better. Nobody could do sales as good as I could. And a lot of those things are true, but relinquishing control of that will change your business and change your life. And that's why this part is the part that I'm most excited about in my business and in helping other people's business. So systems, team building, and delegation. This is hard for us as entrepreneurs, really hard, because I bet most of us in the room are a little bit of control freaks. And I hear some laughs, but if it's not all, it's most, because that's why we all get in this business, because we want to control our destiny, we want to control our lifestyle, we want to control our outcome. And in that, we want to control everything. So relinquishing control and creating a team, hiring people, that makes it really hard. But that is the key to really grow it into a real business that you can operate with that when you're not there. How many people are getting what I'm putting down here? Is this hitting home with anybody? Now my thing's not working again. So how do you transition? This is where most of us end up. This is where I was. I still am here. I might be more in a transition, but up until about 3 years ago, I was right here in the employee, self-employed. It's tough, because how do you take a small that's what's great about real estate investing, is it's small, it's niche, it's local. How do you go into a, we think of business, we think of like big companies. That's what we all are. We're entrepreneurs, so we think of big companies. We all want to be, everybody here is probably watching Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant Cardone and all the guys. It's like, you know, I don't want to grind as hard as Gary Vee and all those guys. That shit's for the birds. He talks about how he's with his kids and his family for 2 hours a day. Like, if that's the life you want, that's great, but that's not the life I want. And I don't think that's the life most people want. But that's like this hashtag hustle mentality we get caught up in. It's just grind, grind, grind. We got to that's how I am. As a man, you know, we get caught up in our ego. We want to be tough. We want to be strong. We want to be providers. We want to provide for our family. And you get caught up in just grinding as hard as you can. But really what you're doing is killing yourself. And if you have a family, pushing your family away. That's really when it clicked for me, was that picture. My wife came to me and said, hey, you know, like, you're around, but you're not around. That's tough to hear. And I'm telling you guys this stuff because this is my journey that I've been on. And I want to help as many people in the real estate business and the small business entrepreneur world as I can be aware of this, because once I realized all this, it changed my whole life. And I don't say that lightly. I say that with fucking a lot of weight. It changed my whole life. And my business has never been, there's a lot of problems, a lot of struggles we have in our business, but it's never been better, and it's never served my life better. That's not to say it's not without a whole slate of issues, but being aware of that stuff is critical. So figuring out your core is a big part of it. For a long time, this was another struggle that I've been through. Visionary versus integrator roles. I bet a lot of us, and this comes into the control issue where we have as being small business owners, is we try to do everything. But we're not always trying to do what our strengths are. We're just trying to wear every hat. Thanks, Leon. So getting in the right seat. For the longest time, I tried to do a lot of these integrator roles, building things like this PowerPoint, doing things like websites, doing things that I'm not really good at. And that's the problem that I feel like a lot of us have, whereas I wouldn't say I'm great, but I'm better at thinking, this fits me, short attention span, reluctance to let go. So figuring this out. And if you guys don't need to take, I see a couple people taking pictures. If you guys go to the website, Wholesale Domination, and just put your info in, I'm gonna put out this PowerPoint. I'm gonna put out a bunch of free bonuses I have, including some manuals we have that go along with our business and some other things. So if you guys go to Wholesale Domination, cut off a little bit by the screen up top, just put your name and your email in. I'm gonna send all that stuff out tomorrow. But figuring out where you fit. There's a book that's really good in, Traction is the name of the book, that kind of goes into a lot of this stuff. And I'm just kind of glossing the surface here. This seems real simple, but really figuring out the core of what your strengths are. What are you good at? What do you need to let go of? I can tell you that once I let go a lot of these roles in my business, that they didn't get done as well as if I'd have done them all, but they got done without me. And that's really what's important. So how do you create those systems and processes to free yourself? What types of things should you delegate? A lot of people, I always hear this, I'm new, I don't have the money, blah, blah, blah. Objections, that's bullshit. Because what I'm gonna get into here is you can outsource a lot of stuff. How many people use overseas virtual assistants? A good amount, okay, that's more than most people when I present. I see about 15, 20% of the room. So that is really the key. That's what started us on this path. I used to use them years ago, but I didn't really have it down to a system. And the biggest thing is to start with the easiest tasks. A lot of us try to outsource the hardest tasks, the biggest tasks, the most overwhelming tasks, but really you want to start out with the smallest tasks so you can get wins. Getting wins under your belt and outsourcing and delegating is it's like a drug. You're gonna become addicted to it. You're gonna be like, oh, this shit works. It gets you high a little bit. It feeds your brain, it feeds your dopamine a little bit. So start out with something easy that you can translate: data entry, list building, website design, calls, appointments. So how do you do that? One of the things that I want to look at, and this is again one of the things I'm going to send out if you register on the website, is looking at the tasks. What kind of tasks are you doing? How many people, so if you look at this, it has $10 an hour tasks, $100 an hour tasks, $1,000 an hour tasks, $10,000 an hour tasks. And when you think about that, some of us get real abstract and you're like, $10,000 an hour, like, who the fuck gets paid $10,000 an hour? But what you're doing is working towards the different quadrants. How many people get stuck running around, running errands, doing all kinds of these low-end tasks? Who's done something last week and be like, why the fuck did I do that? All right, a lot of honest hands. We're getting more honest as the night goes on. I like it. I didn't even see that many beers get consumed, but that's good. People are loosening up. I mean, Leon works with me. If you guys haven't met him, he's a great guy. Leon literally came to me yesterday, and he was getting ready to run out the door, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna go pick up this thing from FedEx. And I basically told him to sit the fuck down. I said, this isn't worth your time. Isn't that what I said? I said, get somebody else to do it. If it doesn't get done today, that's fine. If it doesn't get done tomorrow, that's fine. If it doesn't get done Thursday, that's fine. But our time is worth more than getting stuck in this quadrant. And the problem is we get stuck in these different quadrants based out of habit. Based off of, I need to do this now, so it's an instant task that we feel gratification on. And this is part of the problem. We all tend to think of ourselves as like the lone driver. The one-man wolf pack. We gotta do everything. Nobody can do it as good as me. And this is how I used to be. Nobody can do it as good as me. I gotta go look at every property. I gotta go meet every seller. I gotta go to every closing. I have a goal. I don't go to any closings now. I don't look at any houses before we acquire them. It is my goal to do to sit in one spot all day, not leave the office. I might leave the office and go get something to eat or walk around or drive around, but my goal is to not do any tasks that require me to go somewhere, unless I absolutely have to. And this is probably about a year or two old, but this is now, and this is a little overwhelming to some people probably, but this is how we ended up splitting. What I used to do was wear all of these hats. I would manage the VAs, I would manage the acquisitions, I would manage the project managers, I would manage my wife, you're married, I'm sure you know how well that goes. To do the listings, I would manage the contracts, I would manage the inspections, and you have 10 jobs. What has allowed us to grow is to delegate. My partner, he handles all of the construction. I don't go look at most of the construction projects we have. I don't look at most of the rentals we have. I never meet most of the tenants. Our acquisitions team, I don't go meet any of the sellers. I don't go look at any of the properties. And you might not get to this, but slowly relinquishing each of these pieces is the start to you being able to go on vacation and not be stuck on your phone and get an awful picture of you taken with your kid or your wife or your husband. So what happens when you have a team is then it turns into this. Just put that in there for fun. Is one guy does 99% of the work, the other guy has no idea what's going on. He says he's going to help and this guy doesn't show up till the end. But even if this guy does 99% of the work, he's still only not doing 1% of it. So, not many Hangover fans in here? All right. Some jokes are just for me, it's cool. So this is an example of something that we've systematized over the years. It's the property inspections. We look at probably close to, I think, 250 properties a week, and we have 4 full-time guys that go out and look at properties. And we probably every couple months add a few things to this, just things to look at. You know, is it vacant? Why is it vacant? Are there abandoned vehicles? Are there trash? Are there things? And some of these things to us, who as the owner of the company would seem so obvious. Board up windows, well, it's vacant. Overgrown lawns, it's vacant. But to people who are working for you, it might not seem that way. This is, I always point out this, a picture of the address so we know it's the right house. We have bought the wrong house 3 times, and this is how that got put in there. Because when you streamline stuff, it may seem so simple to you, but to somebody who is working for you for $10 an hour, $15 an hour, for 20 hours a week, they literally need to be told every step of the way. And I put this in there, it's funny to most of us, but it's in there because it happened. So, and what I'm getting at here is when you look at it, you're like, well, that's ridiculous, Terry. My guys would never buy the wrong house. What I'm getting at here is that you have to break out every step of the process. And this process will get broken out further and further and further. But what it's going to do is make your guys more efficient over time. You can take pictures. My goal is I'm going to put the whole slide presentation if you go to the website and send it out. But you can take pictures. I'll pose. So that's just an example of one thing. We have tons and tons of processes like this for different things, and they're constantly getting refined. They're not perfect. They're far from it. Streamline administrative tasks. Everything hit assigned in. We use Podio. Do you guys, anybody here use Podio? Only a few. Podio is great. If you guys don't use it, I would check it out. If you don't have something to manage your leads, Podio basically is a blank slate that you can go in and kind of tweak and program and all that. And when I originally started using Podio, I tried to wear the integrator hat, where I tried to go in and code it. And what I quickly did was stop using Podio because it was beyond frustrating. But we hired somebody to code Podio. My wife learned how to do Podio because she's more of an integrator and I'm more of a visionary. And we ended up using it. And now it runs probably 70 to 80% of our entire business. All of the pictures for all the properties we look at go in there. All of, we send notes to our team back in there if calls come in for seller leads, if calls come in for buyer leads, everything goes in there so that if I'm on a vacation, yes, I might want to turn my phone off for 3 days, but I also want to go in and check and say, hey, what did we buy today? Okay, cool. And your whole team's in one place. So Podio.com, they have a free version, but the paid version is only like $50 a year. It's very cheap. So again, this is just an example of step by step by step by step, everything we do for our admins. So if you're not ready for an on-the-ground team, I'd mentioned using virtual assistants, and there was actually a good amount of people here who had used them. But basically, if you haven't used one, what it is you're outsourcing. You can outsource to the US. I've had people in the States that have done calls for me, that have made cold calls. But most of our VAs are overseas. They're in the Philippines, they're in Pakistan, countries like Bangladesh, where the wages are $1, $2, $3, $4 an hour. And that's basically what we're doing is getting work done, repetitive administrative tasks done for a couple dollars an hour that would here cost us probably $15 to $20 an hour. And it allows us to have a bigger team, basically. We have a team of, Leon, how many? 8 VAs? Yeah, we have a team of about 8. We spend probably about $1,000 a week and maybe $800 a week on VAs. If you take 800 and divide it by $4 an hour is probably the average salary we're paying right now, or hourly rate. I mean, that's a lot of people, a lot of hours that they're being able to work that we wouldn't be able to afford full-time people over here. Yeah. They literally, we go to bed, they work overnight, and we wake up and data's done. They'll go in and pull lists, they'll go in and do our website a little bit, they'll make flyers, they'll do a lot of stuff. You can literally have them do almost anything. And our primary site we use is Upwork.com. It used to be free, they're implementing a paid plan, which I don't know a ton about, but I wanted to note that. There's also Fiverr, and there's, I think it's onlinejobs.ph, which a lot of people use, but we use Upwork for everything. And a lot of people are probably like, well, how do you track these people? Upwork has a built-in tracking system. So you can see here, one of our VAs, this is from back in March of this year. Every, 420, every 10 minutes, it's taking a screenshot of what is going on their screen, and these green bars at the bottom are keystroke logs. So like you can see this one, he just started, so it was very low. But then through this, if they're not working and they just have it open, it's gonna look just like this one. But you can see here, it's like 60, 70% full for most of these. It allows you to track and ensure that they're working. And this is for an hourly job. You can also do a flat rate job where it's not going to track this as much. And one of the ways we train our VAs, like you can see here, they're looking at Baltimore City citations. They're going into SDAT and then putting the list in, it's a little fuzzy. But the way we train them is with videos. Let me see. You're not going to get the audio from this, but I'll just let it play in the background. This is a video that my wife made where she's going into Bright MLS, and there's a program called Screencast-O-Matic. There's also a program called Jing. You just go online and Google free screen recording software, and she records everything that she's doing for that task, sends it to the VA, and says, hey, this is how you do this for this entire list, or this is, if you want them to edit a flyer at the website, you go in and show them. And it's amazing. We have probably hundreds of processes that we show the VAs how to do, and they do it for everything. They look up tax records, they look up square footage, they look up water bills, they look up anything you can think of that's repetitive administrative task. Starting to do stuff like this will literally free you from doing all the small stuff in your business. So this is another example of a way that we're doing tracking. This is just to kind of give you guys an idea a little, but every week we track our seller marketing. Just again, tweaking to see where we're getting our returns, are you tracking, are you creating a system? I can tell you right now, I did not create this. My wife, who is the integrator in our business, created this entire spreadsheet. If you're an integrator, not a visionary, if you're a visionary, not an integrator, find somebody who is, that can help you do stuff. Don't get bogged down in doing shit that you don't want to do, that you're not good at. Luckily, my wife is we're opposite in a lot of ways, which is very complimentary. And she helps do stuff like this. And we literally track everything. Because if you don't know how much money you're spending on marketing, you don't know how many leads, you don't know your returns, and you can start out very basic. Just saying, hey, how much did I send out? How much did I do? But I can tell you, when I was responsible for all of that, I didn't do it. I didn't know how much I was making. I was just looking at the overall P&L. Am I making money or losing money? So, how do you get there? A lot of people, I kind of went through a lot of things that might have been, with the hour we have here tonight, I can't get into all of them, so how do you get there? It's not gonna happen overnight. The thing is just to start. It's like, has anybody heard the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You just have to start every little thing. Systematizing our business has taken years, and it's not completely systematized. I don't want to be negative, but I'm a realist, and it probably never will be, but it's something that we work on every day. And we have successes and struggles in that. So, it's tough, but it's worth it. That's the best thing I can say. You know, you guys have spent almost an hour here with me going through some of my stuff that I've gone through. I've showed you guys my challenges that I've had with my business, how it's affected my family, and I'm sure by now you guys understand where my values lie. So that's why I wanted to go into so much of the systems and really go into that. Do you guys have any questions about that?
It's kind of tangent, but
a what?
A diplomat, like a foreign entity, and you cannot get a hold of them, but the house is 66.
Move on to another property.
Said leave it alone is what?
Or you could obsess over one lead. I see a lot of people do this.
No. I mean, there's more than one out there in Washington, D.C. area that is
You want to cast the widest net you can. You want to be putting as many touches as you can on as many different people. And there's a lot of properties that you're never going to get a hold of anybody. It's never going to make any sense why they sit vacant. It's never going to make any sense why they don't sell. It's never going to make any sense at all. And trying to make sense of any of that is probably going to drive you crazy, and it's going to chew up a big bandwidth of your time. I know because I've been there. This is me talking to you, talking to me. You wanna, if it's a good lead, you can try to work it, but just move on to the next one. So that's the biggest thing. So one of the things with systems that is really important to me, and also having your business and your life, is a lot of people over the years have asked me to do real estate coaching, which I've never done because, and I don't do today because it doesn't excite me. Because I don't really want to tell people how to do more deals or tell you how to, what I do like to do is tell people how to, like I said, have their business fit their life. And one of the things that we've done over the last couple months is we put together a mastermind, which Sabina is why I'm kind of picking on her. She was here, Frederick was there. It's a very small group. I don't know how many slots we have left. I don't have anything for you to sign up for tonight, but if anybody's interested in it, I would love to have you fill out an application. Our next one will be in about 3 months. And it's nothing you can even pay for online. It's something that I'm so serious about putting together because Sabina was there. It was the people in that room, and I've been in a lot of rooms like that, and being in a mastermind and a coaching group was how I got my ass handed to me about I wasn't having my business and my family serve my life. So that is the one thing that we are doing, is putting together a group of people that want to take their business and their life and mesh them together. And that's something that's very passionate to me. Having somebody close 100 deals or make $1 million doesn't make me very excited. Having somebody come back and tell me that, hey, I did 30 deals instead of 50 and I'm way happier is makes me real excited. I don't know if you see the tone of my face just changed, but it did. So nothing to overly pitch here, but I just wanted to make you guys aware of it. If you're interested, go to realfreedommastermind.com and check it out. You can put it in. Again, there's nothing even to pay for online. You have to fill it out and go through a call. There's only 14 slots, and I'm hoping most of those people that were in the first one come back for the next one. But I imagine we'll have 3 or 4 available spots for people who just can't make it. And if you're interested in being really vulnerable and really real about your life and your business, I'd love to talk to you more about that. And Sabina was there. You can ask her candidly and she can talk crap about me. But that was our group picture after there. We spent 2 days together and we talked a lot about the stuff I did, about how my business negatively impacted my family, how to streamline it, and how to improve it. So with that being said, I want to open up the floor to questions. First off, I, again, appreciate everyone who came out tonight. Again, I know how much my time means to me. As you guys can see from the presentation, I really value my family time a lot, and I truly appreciate everybody who took a little time out from their family or personal time to spend it here this evening. So that being said, if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
I'll talk loud.
People just go.
Okay, yeah. So, fairly new into the investment sector, mostly focusing on wholesaling. One of the things that you said that I thought was great, and just want you to expand on it, is like having multiple different feathers in your head as far as like looking at different deals and different perspectives. Like, can you expand on like different ways of, like, you know, because you have your fix and flip, you're buy and hold, you know, some of the obvious ones, like how can you sort of open it up to where you know how to run numbers for all these different means of like knowing if it's a deal, and if it's a deal, what kind of buyer would buy that deal, and, you know, or at least some of the more popular ones, like this is a wide range of buyers that are interested in this one kind of structured deal.
Okay. So basically when I'm going in to look for deals, I'm looking at most of the time the only thing I'm looking at is what are cash buyers paying in a neighborhood. There's usually, if there's no cash sales, that's going to make it if you're looking to wholesale it. If you're looking at it as a rehab or rental, you're going to have to determine your own criteria. Your criteria could be different from Sabina's, who's different than Frederick's, who's different than Leon's. That's why you need to, if you're looking at it for yourself, I can't tell you what's a good deal. If you're looking as a wholesale, that's where the market determines what's a good deal. If you don't have that data, if it's in a neighborhood maybe way out in the county or in a rural area, it's going to be a lot harder to figure out. But if you're in a more urban, suburban area, it's usually going to be median and a mean of where the cash sales are selling price per square foot, similar style house, and that's really what you want to target. I really don't try to make it any more complicated than that. If I'm not looking at keeping it for myself, I say, okay, here's where I want to pay, which again, we'll just use round numbers. If I want to pay 100, but the cash sales are going for 120, I might even pay 103. Say, if I get stuck with it, worst case, I paid $3,000 more than I wanted to, but if there's really a lot of people paying 110 to 120, I'll take that risk to say, hey, if this turns into a deal that I don't want to keep, this is the median. And the law of averages plays out on that. You understand what I'm saying? Because there's multiple cash buyers for that same property. And townhouse properties in like neighborhoods like Dundalk or any kind of like exact type of property is going to be a lot easier to comp and determine a value on. But single family properties and things like that are going to be, there's going to be a little bit more wiggle room, and you might want to give yourself a little more cushion. But you're going to need to determine your own criteria for anything that you want to keep. You might want to make 50, 60, 80 grand on a rehab, where I might be happy making 30 or 40. I can't tell you what you're happy with, and you can't tell me, and that's really why investing is so great. If it were a super efficient market, if we were all trading in gold, that's all easy. You go to every pawn shop, they're going to be within a dollar or two of each other. That's what makes real estate great, is because it's an efficient market. So, I know that didn't exactly answer that.
You're essentially trying to capture as many buyers as you can, so you got to figure out what their criteria is for.
The market determines your criteria.
Know your area.
Yeah.
So the area, are you talking about ARV, or are you talking about what investors purchase property?
If I'm looking to wholesale, I'm looking at what investors are willing to pay on the front end.
And do you find that on public data?
We have MLS access. So we look through that. If you don't have MLS access, you can partner with a realtor. You might even be able to get administrative access through a realtor, which I know a lot of people have. That's really where you're going to get your best data. But there's also a lot of data in the public records. I mean, Maryland has almost everything online. I can tell you for the first 5 years that I didn't have any MLS access. I got everything through SDAT and just went street by street, just looking. I mean, it was a lot more time consuming, but it's what I had to do. Thanks for your question. Somebody else up front, and then I'll move to the back. Nobody else up front?
For every dollar that comes in, thanks. I want to yell in your face. For every dollar that comes into the company, where does that go? And then have that a lot of time, right? So when you were a one-man shop, you get $1, maybe 20% goes to marketing, 10% goes to rent. How did that change once you had salaries? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. That's tough to answer. I would say probably just from a rough perspective, 40 to 60% goes to expenses. We have a pretty big payroll, having like 6 full-time people on staff. But we just kind of operate month to month. We have to keep a certain amount in reserves for operating, certain amount for taxes, and that's just going to change based on deal flow. And we're trying to hone in on that as a small business owner. I'm sure most small business owners here probably have had issues where you don't know. We're trying to get more consistent, like we're taking money every month for taxes, because taxes are really your biggest expense for most people. So we're taking money out every month for taxes. I'm on salary, so everybody in the company is on salary. It's not like we're just like, hey, let's just grab here and there. And that makes everything more consistent and more predictable. There's a really good book, it's called Profit First, which goes into how you really should be breaking up your company profits. I can't say that we fully adhere to that rule, but we're trying to slowly take the concepts out of that book. It's basically saying you should take this much for operating, this much for taxes, this much for so-and-so, because if you're only paying yourself a salary, your company's really not making any profit. You're right back where you were, and you have a job where you're just paying yourself. So I don't have a hard fast rule. I can tell you it just fluctuates really. And we just basically ramp up or throttle down our business based on when we get to a certain amount of cash reserves that we don't feel comfortable with, we just have to throttle back our acquisitions. Right now with the city being all hemmed up, that's slowed us down a little bit because we have closings that can't happen and things like that. So, and that's where I know a lot of people that operate monthly, they're like, hey, I got a flip closing in 2 weeks. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that's negatively affecting that don't have reserves. And that's one of the biggest things I can say as a business owner. If you don't, a lot of people are just like, hey, we have all these closings, but if you don't have a big pad and you have to 6, 8, 9 months reserves of what your business and personal expenses are, you basically are below zero in my opinion. So that's one of the biggest things I think a lot of small business owners and investors don't do. That is a great question, and that answer is going to vary for everybody. But I would definitely recommend the book Profit First. I think it's Mike Michalowicz that's the author, and he's got an audio book and the hardback version. Because if you're ADD like me, you don't read very well. Somebody else over here had a question, or I'll come right back.
What is the most time efficient way of skip tracing? Which software do you use? Which is most, it's not like just white pages or something, because what is the one that gives you most efficient information?
That's a great question that I can't answer because we stick to direct mail, online auctions, inside auctions. We have done skip tracing. We were using a site called Cole Realty, which wasn't great. Does anybody else here skip trace? Okay, well then I'm gonna let you guys answer.
So I was recommended to use batch skip tracing. Have you heard of batchskiptracing.com?
You said you use batch skip tracing. You said,
well, I use needtoskip.com. I typically
I've heard of
get
that.
like a 75% hit rate. It comes back with like 10 numbers. So that's been really good for me. Needtoskip.com. Because it has like TLO, it's a little bit expensive. It's like 35 cents.
that's the greatest gift, that Shaq gift.
But you can create some
I saw that.
I guess system with them, and then they'll give you discounts on it.
Cool, and if you guys are all local, I also have a Facebook group I run. It's called the Baltimore Area Real Estate Investors Club. Just get on there, join it, and post questions like that. Because again, I stick to certain niches that work for me. I don't do a lot of skip tracing. I don't do a ton of cold. We do some cold calling, not a ton. But those are the kind of questions that people get on there and ask. Like, hey, who are you using and getting success with? Things like that. Again, if you just go on Facebook, Baltimore Area Real Estate Investors Club, just post in there what kind of issues you're having, things like that. So thank you guys for chiming in. And somebody up this.
Does your company JV deals? And how would be the contact with you?
Cool. You can email us at jthomesinfo@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, MD Discount Houses. We do JV deals, but I will tell you that we don't do a ton of it because I'm real big on focus. I used to do a ton of JV deals. That was how I really ran my business up probably 7-8 years ago, was I did a lot of those. But I find in today's market, if somebody can't find a buyer for something, that their deal probably isn't really good. And that, I don't mean that as offense to you, because there's some people who just don't have buyers. That's how I did my very first deal. I JV'd with somebody, and the market was hot then. It was just brand new, I had no idea what I was doing. But we have a big deal flow ourselves, so when we take our eye off the ball and start chasing other rabbits and other shiny objects, like it just takes everybody's focus away. So if you have a deal, I would love to look at it because it could be something that we might want to buy. It could be something I was like, hey man, this is a fantastic deal and I do have buyers for it. I'm not trying to discourage you, I'm just letting you know, full disclosure, how I operate today. Is that we literally probably have like a 2-week backlog of deals that we need to market at any given time. So if I'm like, hey, let's do your deal and this deal and that deal, then that just kind of slows us up. But again, you can email us directly at jthomesinfo@gmail.com. Check it out. I'll check it out, take a look at it. If it's something that I can't help you with, I'd be happy to help you out, figure out how you can. Do you have a deal now you're trying to figure out?
I have a few.
Okay.
So I'm fresh to it, so
Sabina buys. There's buyer. If you're a buyer in the room, raise your hand. Okay. So there you go. JV, you can send me my check. 110%. No, I mean seriously, there's tons of buyers. I've bought deals in rooms like this. Like being in rooms like this when you don't have a ton of context is powerful. Like you should be figuring out who the real players are and connecting with them. Because they'll do the same thing. Sabina might not be interested in your deal. Somebody else might not be interested in your deal, but I've had people like, Terry, your deal, this deal doesn't make sense. Go back and get it for this price. This is why I need to buy it at this number. They'll like kind of coach you on how to do your deals. You obviously don't want to be bringing people bad deals, but if you have people that will help you a little bit, it'll guide you. Say, hey, well, what are you buying in that neighborhood for if this deal's overpriced? Does that make sense? Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I saw a couple other hands.
Earlier you had mentioned MLS, that you look for properties on MLS, you look for deals on MLS. Is it possible to wholesale a deal in MLS when you don't own it? The deal? Or, I hear people doing that, but I don't know.
The answer is yes. You can wholesaling. When you're wholesaling, you're not normally owning the deal. You're assigning the contract to somebody else. MLS standard contract does not allow you to assign a deal. There's a specific non-assignability clause in that. You can do a lot of different things. You can either double close on the deal. You can strike that clause, which I don't prefer to do because striking it just draws everybody's attention that you are trying to assign it. So typically if I'm trying to assign an MLS deal, I will double close it. I'll put it in an LLC, then sell the LLC, or I will add an addendum to it stating that I have the right to change the name of the buyer at closing. So those are my 3 favorite ways to assign MLS deals. But when you assign a deal, you're not 90% of the time taking title to it. You're just selling your contract rights to another buyer. Does that make sense? So wholesaling is a broad term too that people are like, oh, well, this really wholesaling to me is just buying low and selling a little bit higher. So you could be assigning, you could be double closing, it could be something you own that you're selling at a discount. So does that make sense? Help you out? Okay. So I saw somebody in the back, and then I'll come. That was a death stare. I felt like. Okay. Somebody was in.
So I just hired a bookkeeper, so I'm taking the step. How did you think about the finances? So I've mapped out the monthly cost for everything that I want to outsource. It's like $7,000 a month.
Okay.
So how did it, I obviously can't do that all at once. Did you save up a certain amount to have someone do one task for several months, or did you borrow money?
You're saying your expense is $7,000 a month?
No, if I were to outsource all the tasks that I don't want to do, they'll free me up. It's like $7,000 a month.
How do you eat elephant?
One bite at a time. So did you save up money?
So his question was if you outsource everything, it'll cost $7,000 a month, which it'll probably be more than that, would be my guess once you really.
Yeah.
But how do you get that? You don't go from 0 to 100. You just, what is the biggest, what is the simplest thing that you can outsource that you hate doing the most? Is bookkeeping? Because I know that was for me the longest time. I didn't want to pay a bookkeeper because bookkeepers, most of them are 30, 40, $60 an hour. And as investors, most of us are cheap and we want to get the best product for the lowest cost. I find that's most of us. But you have to also look at, one of the things that a lot of people don't think about when you're thinking about cost on outsourcing is how much of your bandwidth does it take up? I know for taxes and bookkeeping, that same picture I showed you with my daughter in Disney World, my wife and I, the year before that, were in Italy doing our taxes at midnight, every night. It's the same thing. It was that the hesitation to implement things based on cost, based on disorganization of not having a process. So you start with the bookkeeping. I think for most people that is the biggest hang up is the bookkeeping. Most of us don't have a handle on our finances, cash reserves. So I would start with that, and once you do that, just the next thing, you have to just start slow. Don't look at it, if you look at it as a $7,000 monthly expense, it's gonna be overwhelming and you're not gonna wanna do it, and you're gonna try to figure out how you can do it all at once. Just start real slow. So I hope that helped you out. Because the other thing that is, if you start outsourcing those tasks at $30, $60 an hour, you're going to be able to go and do what your highest and best use is. If you're really good at negotiating, if you're really good at marketing, if you're really good at just developing the business, those are the $1,000, $5,000 an hour tasks that other people can't do. That's going to free up that bandwidth that I'm just talking about to go focus on your business, to worry about, hey, how can we go acquire more deals? How can I make this more efficient? Or how can I cut costs here? That's the stuff that you need to be worrying about. So that's really, it's going to start to free up that 7,000 quicker than you think. So that's awesome though that you're taking that step. Congrats. And somebody told
I have a question about selling the LLC as opposed to just selling the house from out of the LLC.
So when you're selling the LLC, you take title in a property under an LLC and sell it. You're asking why to do it or how to do it?
The benefits.
The benefits of that are typically going to be on your higher priced properties, because in Baltimore City, transfer taxes are 3%, and for a lot of deals that so a lot of people do this with bank deals, and with banks, the buyer pays all the closing costs. So if you're buying a $200,000 house and your transfer taxes alone in the city are going to be 3%, you're going to pay $6,000 in transfer and recordation. So if you have to close on it, then close on it again, you're just chewing up $6,000 right off the front, and that doesn't even include the settlement. There's probably another $1,000 or $2,000 on top of that. So if you can sell the LLC, the buyer, the secondary buyer really is paying all that, and you're just taking your fee out of it. And really that's going to come with people who know, a lot of people, I've done it with people who I've never met, but a lot of investors are really hesitant to buy LLCs from other investors. So if you have relationships with people, they're going to be more apt to doing that strategy. It's not overly complicated. Any investor-friendly title company is going to be able to structure that, but it's really going to come down to your relationship with the buyer. And they're usually going to want a new LLC that doesn't have any, they might have you sign something that states it's never owned any property or had any liens and so forth. So that's really what you're doing there, is saving, or if there's a deed restriction, like if you can't sell, if a bank property, if you can't sell the deed, and again, you'll have to check with your title company that you're able to even do the LLC, but it could be a loophole to that. So, thank you. Any other questions? Time for a couple more.
Hey, so I'm extremely new to wholesaling. This is actually my first wholesaling thing into. What would you say are the first few steps for me to get started and to learn? By the way, I'm also an agent.
I'm sorry. Some jokes are just for me, but apparently some other people found that one funny. Figure out what you like to do. I mean, have you done any agent deals?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you like being an agent?
It's nice, but there's always...
Didn't sound very confident.
There's opportunities to make more money is what I see.
There's opportunities to make money everywhere. I know people that have big agent teams that are making millions of dollars a year. Like, my thing is figure out, what do you want to do? Do you want to wholesale? Do you want to be an agent? Do you want to go start like a company making widgets? Like, I'm not saying that funny, I'm saying, what do you want to do? There was a moment in time where my wife is a licensed agent, and I heard about these other agents that I'm very close with, and they're big teams and all the money they're making. And just the same bad path I went down, it's like, oh, this is exciting. And there was so much paperwork, and you've got all these clients who basically are like you have 15 bosses. It's like, it just didn't fit what we wanted, but some people are really great with that and really great at the marketing. What I'm getting is there's no right or wrong answer. Like, do you want to wholesale? Do you want to start a big not a brokerage, but a big agent team? Like, you have to figure out what your strengths are and what you're good at and what you want to do. Like, I can't tell you what that answer is. Like, if you want to wholesale, the biggest thing you need to get, I mean, being an agent, you're going to figure this out already, but what is the market, starting with like a couple zip codes and just honing in on those zip codes and you can be an agent in those zip codes and wholesale in those zip codes. There's some legal loopholes you need to jump through with disclosures and paperwork and so forth, but if you're like the go-to expert in 3 neighborhoods, you might get pocket deals and be like, well, I'll just buy this, settle on it, and then flip it in 2 weeks for 20, 30 grand instead of listing it. Like, you could wear a lot of hats, but that's a question I can't answer. But really to start either with being an agent or wholesalers, you need to become really honed in on a certain area. And I would suggest to pick an area you know, not an area you think you want to be in, because what happens is you probably already know a couple areas, but you're like, oh, well, these price points are better or these clients are better. But if you already have market knowledge in a couple zips or a couple neighborhoods, start there, because you've already got a leg up on a lot of people. Does that make sense? I see a lot of people that want to go out into like Howard County or down in Anne Arundel. And they're all great, there's no bad. I can tell you I make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in Baltimore City in the worst neighborhoods. It's just what I know. You have to go with what you know and go with what you like. What brings you joy? I can't answer that. And that's a tough question. A lot of us, like people are like, oh, well, I'm kind of happy doing this. Like those are kind of deep questions that a lot of us never really give ourselves time to think about. Is like, what do we really like to do? What brings us what part of the business brings us real joy? Those are the kinds of things when the mastermind I'm talking about, that's the kind of shit we kind of start digging at in there. And I can tell you, when people start digging at me 2 or 3 years ago when I was in some other groups, it's real uncomfortable. But when you start figuring it out, things get real clear real quick. So whether you're in a group like that or not, like just take some time and figure it out. Think about it. I think it's a challenge for a lot of us. So it was a good question though. Kind of brought me around to some other questions. Thank you. So I saw a couple, we got time for probably 2 more questions. Right here. Hey, what's up, man?
What's going on? Can you talk a little bit about how you focus your mailers? Like where you go to start building your lists, where you find the opportunity to best spend that postage?
That's a good question. I'll kind of rewind it back because I have it right at the end there. We tend to go in areas where we have multiple exits. Those are my favorite neighborhoods where we can either buy to rehab, buy to rent, so I don't want to go to this area where I don't like mailing to let's just use low-end zip codes in Baltimore City. Like I do a lot of deals there, but I typically get them from foreclosure auctions, MLS, auction.com, things like that. I don't want to spend a lot of money in those zips because I only have one exit. I like to mail and market to the areas where I'll take it for, great, get it cheap enough, we can rehab it, get it at the right price, we can rent it. If we have to pay a little more than our maximum threshold, we can wholesale it. That's what I would pick neighborhoods like that. And you have some rentals, right?
We do, and I actually just got a mailer from you, and I was just wondering how that house got on.
Because it's probably that Dundalk?
Essex.
Essex, okay, it's all the same to me.
Yeah.
That's that kind of neighborhood. Those kind of neighborhoods are really, really good for that. Like,
so you just, the whole area,
we tend to build our own mailers. We go off of like length of time. We've purchased some lists and had some success, but we also build our own and we base criteria off of length of time owned, how many times the deeds flip, things like that.
Is that on the MLS or?
We use the public records portion of the MLS. The public records portion of the MLS actually has a lot of data in it, and we pull a lot of lists from there. So, but there's also, if you guys want to buy lists, there's a lot of list providers. The 2 biggest ones are going to be ListSource, Melissa Data. There's a lot of smaller guys that are coming out now too. But we just build our own, probably out of habit, but we're kind of trying some new things too. So, and anybody else?
When selling a wholesale property, why should we prefer a cash buyer as compared to a buyer who is taking a loan?
Why do I want what?
Why should we prefer a cash buyer as compared to a buyer who is taking a loan?
The question was, why do you prefer a cash buyer over someone who's taking a loan? That's a good question. When you're wholesaling, typically most people are assigning the deal, and most lenders are not going to allow an assignment. I have done some deals with lenders allowing an assignment, but it's atypical. Lenders are going to want seasoning. So if you're going to sell to a buyer with a lender, you probably can sell at a higher price point, but you're probably going to need to close on the property, hold it for 30 days. If it's an FHA buyer, you're going to need to have some length of time seasoning potentially. And there could be, if it's within a rapid period, they're going to could do multiple appraisals to see why the value increased depending on your spread. So most assignments are just cash deals or hard money deals. I mean, Jason lends probably 30-40% of your deals are probably assignments?
What?
The deals you lend on?
I don't stand it right here.
I said 30-40% of the deals you lend on are probably assignments?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
So buyers that are buying wholesale deals are typically going to have hard money, private money, or be cash. Like if you're dealing with a traditional Bank of America conventional lender, they probably 9 out of 10 times aren't going to allow it. An FHA lender, you're not going to be able to do it at all. So that is why that's preferred. I'd love to, if I could get loans, if I could have lender buyers buy assignments, it'd be great. I could sell all my deals for more money. But just the mechanics of, that's why you have to get it cheap enough. So. It's a good question, thank you. And time for one more. You already asked a question. I'm gonna see. Well, I'll give you. Wait and see.
I answered the question.
Oh, you? All right. I like how you push back on that.
So I've heard mixed opinions about pre-foreclosures that in Maryland you can't.
PIFA.
If you're wholesaling it, then you're considered consulting them, so you can't buy it from them. Does that make sense? I'm not really sure about
His question was about pre-foreclosures. I'm not a lawyer and I don't know the 100% law, but there's in Maryland law called the PIFA law with pre-foreclosures, and I'm not 100. From what I heard, it was more to do with short sales, but I was talking to somebody recently who also said you can't directly market to them without some verbiage. I would just go online and Google PIFA and read up on the laws. There are some loopholes. I know short sales have a lot more, or not loopholes, there are some legalities. I know short sales have a lot more legalities than other things. I think if you buy the house outright from a pre-foreclosure, you'll be in the clear, but you might want to check on that with a title company because they're gonna clear all that anyway before you settle on it. So I'm not a lawyer and I don't market specifically to pre-foreclosures. In Maryland, that was I think 10 years ago they introduced the PIFA law. So, and I think it gears more towards short sales, which are very difficult to wholesale in general, but they can be done. All right, one more? And gone? I want everybody to hear the question.
That's cool. So mine's more so on the lead generation side. It sounds like you, I guess, what's one of your favorite sort of methods? It sounds like you like have canvassing neighborhoods, mailers, stuff like that. And also more directly to a new wholesaler who doesn't have deep pockets yet. What's a more cost-effective way to kind of get some lead generation going?
The most driving for dollars. I think door knocking, we don't do a ton of it, but if you can door knock, I mean, you're gonna be leaps and bounds ahead of most people. Like canvas, like a tight-knit neighborhood, like a row house community, like out in the county or something, because you're getting in front of people. Most people are terrified. That's why most people are cold calling and doing like the remote voicemails and saying, no, people don't. If you can put yourself out there in front of people, it's very time consuming, but it's also gonna drop your threshold for being uncomfortable. I would say it's very time consuming though. Driving for dollars, when I first got started, I would just take a different route. When I'd go somewhere, every day or two, I would just go this way, go that way, and there's apps you can use for like walking and stuff that'll like track your route. And I would just start and stop and save the route, and then eventually I would canvass like whole neighborhoods and then send those people letters. Or now you have an efficient list if you want to go out and door knock a bunch of vacants, door knock the houses on both sides and say, hey, do you know anything about this house? This all might be vacant. And that's really what you want to do when you're door knocking. You're usually not getting, from what I've found, the people who are at that house. You're getting info from the neighbors on who owns that house. So, cool. All right, well, I just want to, again, thank everybody for coming out tonight. If you guys have more questions, I'll be around.